Good morning, good afternoon, LinkedIn. Welcome to another episode of Let's Build Workspaces in HubSpot with Danielle Urban. How you doing, Danielle?
Doing great. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Uh, Nothing better than always having something new to show off. That's why we're
Certainly
here
keeping
all
our
the
lives
time.
interesting.
So thank you, HubSpot, for that. But I was glad you caught that. Max and Kyle broke it down yesterday. Uh, as far as like this quality of life, improvement for dashboards. So I'll let you just dive in. What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big proponent of building for action. So, trying to build these workspaces that inspire action or really serve a purpose and not just because you can. And so, this new saved filters feature that just got released to public beta in the dashboards is really exciting to me because we were just chatting before. You can now save your weekly and monthly reporting in the same place. Like it is now the same dashboard with two buttons to toggle between weekly and monthly. And before there was some like preset filters. You could do the quick filters at the top, and I've used those for sure, but they're usually like um, more specific to market segments or like drilling down into the next layer of filtering rather than this sort of like save date filtering or trying to customize a dashboard to a role view. And so I'm really excited to unbox those and play with those today and see how they might differ from the quick filters and how they might help us sort of serve the purpose of cleaning up dashboards. Maybe you don't need quite so many. And this will be a big win in that regard because most plans are limited. I don't know many people who find the limits of the number of dashboards you can have. Because if you have more than like two or three that you're looking at on a regular basis, like we need to have a conversation because I don't understand. But inevitably there are some that get created for a single purpose or a single campaign, and then they kind of fall out of use. And so this can help to eliminate some of that like tech junk that you have left lying around.
Yeah, created for reasons.
Yep.
Definitely comes to mind. And as you describe what this filter is doing, like I'm excited to see it just because one, the need to create multiple dashboards for this purpose always felt like just wrong.
Hmm.
Especially when we have all these filtering mechanisms all over the place. Like, why isn't it working here? The way that we see it in other spots. But also, like, this is one of those places, especially time bound filtering, like you're going to show today. It's like the difference between like how the reports on the dashboard can be like different in terms of time, um, like the uh, the time filtering that the report's doing versus the dashboard. Yeah, that's always a place of confusion, not only for people like building it out, but also like when you pull it back up, like to show it in the meeting. And
Right.
it's like one of these settings is not behaving, and like now you're just misinforming everybody. And like, again, one of these places where credibility gets lost like immediately.
Yeah. Or if you have cases where, you've created a clone of a report so that you can have, say, a weekly dashboard, a monthly dashboard, and a quarterly dashboard. Previously, those would have to be three separate things, and you would have to make sure that the filters at the dashboard level, because you now somewhat recently have the option to do that, you have to make sure those match. And then if you're cloning the reports, now they're two separate reports. If you apply a filter in one place, you have to make sure you go back and do it to the other. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. You should just reuse the report on multiple dashboards. But now we kind of pull that all together, and a dashboard should inspire action. All of your workspace should inspire your next step. And so when you're looking at the dashboard and you're like, oh, these numbers are weird on my weekly dashboard, is this a trend? Well, now it's literally one click in the same screen that you can just kind of toggle between the two and see, like, oh, no, it's not a trend. This week's an anomaly because I don't know, people had Monday off. Like, who knows? So you can now sort of zoom out much faster when you have these filters applied and you don't have to go through multiple screens. I mean, you might have the argument that you want to look at them side by side, but whatever. We can solve for that use case when we need to. But I do think that having a single click and keeping it in the same screen is really powerful for being able to just click around and understand the broader picture and zoom in. Like you can go through that exercise so much faster.
Yeah. No, I'm real excited to see it. Uh,
Let's go look at it.
it's gonna be very powerful
I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my window.
because these kinds of guardrails and like user experience, user design
Yeah.
goes so far to helping people tell these stories um, without necessarily the requirements of them having taken a course on how to show charts like in a meeting,
Yeah.
right? Because so many people like, especially when you're the marketer and you show up in front of like engineers and scientists that look at charts all day every day, they can
Yeah.
tell immediately when the scale is different. And when you say something like, oh, this compares to this, it's like, no, it doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
they're not on the same scale, but they look exactly the same. It's like, yeah, because this isn't set up right. And so creating these boundaries for, for everybody to work in just goes such a long way in terms of reducing the chance for, miscommunication.
Yeah. So I'm excited to compare this to the quick filters because even in these screenshots here on the product updates page, and this is called filter presets on dashboards. Um, so they've got some screenshots showing us what it's going to look like. We can save as new filter preset. And so I'm very curious to see how that looks different from the quick filters. Um, yeah, let's go play with it. Join beta. And this is anybody can join this beta. It's not limited to any specific tiers, which is very exciting. And then since this is our demo account, there won't be a whole lot of data to play with, but we get to start fresh and build ourselves a dashboard and remind myself what it looks like when you create your very first dashboard, because that's not something I've done in a very long time. All right, so we're gonna go to our dashboard. And I know it's funny when I work with my clients, some of them don't understand that dashboards are like a dashboard with reports on it. They see the tiles as belonging to that dashboard rather than being a standalone report. And so there's kind of this baseline learning and understanding for how a dashboard comes together and what those layers are. So, like, absolute baseline, back to basics. A dashboard is a collection of reports. Each tile that you see on a dashboard is a specific report. When you apply filters at the dashboard level, it does not impact the report, especially if it's used across other dashboards. You're only impacting it in that single dashboard view, which is really handy, but you do have to remember that if you're looking at the same report in other places. Thankfully, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of continuity when you're looking at the same report on different dashboards. Like, you wouldn't really know that it's the same report unless you start to dig into it and, you know, see where it's used in other places. And that can get tricky because if you click into it and you change the filters in that report for the purpose of the dashboard you're looking at, then you have that ripple effect, and that report is, updated in all of the dashboard that it's in. And then maybe it has that disconnect, like you were just talking about, where the scale is off, or it doesn't match the other places it's supposed to live. So being able to apply these filters at the dashboard level means that you set that context for the whole view of what you're looking at, and you don't mess it up in other places. So it sort of helps you keep things organized a little bit better. So if we add
Yeah.
a report, maybe I should just use some saved reports to keep this quick, but there's some nice templates in here. Chris, can you think of any that would have data in it, or is there nothing in here?
There's nothing in this one.
Okay, all good. Let's look at, we'll do a data source for contact. So let's imagine that we're building for, a marketing manager um, who wants to know how, new contacts are coming in. So we'll do recently created contacts. What are the new people going in? And this is a fun little tour. Filters are to the top of the page. So this is different in the report building piece as well. Quickly access and apply filters, just like in other parts. We've seen the ability to search values. Ooh, that's actually huge. Search key values in your report to easily find data. So now that functions kind of like the index view for contacts. So instead of filtering, like it's basically like filtering for keywords, which is really cool. And I'll definitely be testing that with forms because I have so many feelings about form reporting. One of them being if you follow a naming convention, it still isn't helpful because you have to select each form. So if I can use a keyword to filter forms, life changing.
Unlocked.
Yeah, next level. Cool. So,
Yeah, and I think that situation you described where are we changing the filter, where are we changing the variable to help us in that moment communicate something? That's
mhm,
where I often talk about like this change from marketing platform to customer platform. So much of the functionality is built based on the time where it was just marketers in the
mhm,
system trying to create things that other people would use that weren't going to be doing stuff in HubSpot. So it didn't matter if the marketer like micromanaged all the details to get the perfect, picture because
mhm.
nobody else was using that report anywhere else. And now that you have marketing and sales and service working together, when you start to change those things, that's where if you do it, the more you micromanage it in the moment, that's when, okay, now the salesperson takes it in their meeting, they pull up the same thing, and now it's different for them. And that
Yeah.
frustrates the hell out of people.
Yeah. I really like this transition to the filters on top. I think it'll take some getting used to because remember, this used to be like two tabs. And I liked that view because it made it very clear what was there. So like having these reports across the top, I think it's a little less obvious, what's applied. You'll have to go look for it to really understand, especially if you've got a lot of like keyword filters or campaign contains all these words kind of filters. I feel like that could get a little lost because it has less real estate up here. But the about this report and the report measures, having that front and center just helps you stay more organized. So if you are diligent, which I know most people aren't, but if you're diligent about writing descriptions for your reports or how it is intended to be used or why it exists, and then see all the things that it's based on, especially where it could get buried in filters, having this front and center, I feel like can help with some of those use cases where someone might go try and change the filters for something specific and then realize, oh, wait, this is serving that purpose. Let me clone it or do my own thing or just not save the additional filters I'm adding to it. Um, but this is cool. I have to admit, I don't use the canned reports very often unless I'm sort of directing someone else to like a self-service use case where I'm like, oh, this might already exist. Go check through the report library. Um, because typically when I'm working with a client, we're looking for something very specific. So I build all of my custom reports in the custom report builder, and it's great. But this is great for this purpose. Let's save it. We could update our description, adding to an existing dashboard, save and add. So we've got that one. I'll just grab one other one for the sake of playing with the filters here. Contact
See, no
created
more
total.
excuses in most places when it comes to descriptions because you can just hit the generate button
I know. Even when I hit
and
save,
fill
like
it in.
I remember that my click path to get to this point was I was on the dashboard, I hit add reports, I'm in the report builder library area, and now I'm hitting save, and it's still prompting me to update the name and the description, and I am 100% for that. And then we add it to the dashboard,
And
so
this
now we
should
can
be
dashboard.
a place like if you use this as like a checkpoint and you hit the generate button and what it generates doesn't make sense, it's
Yeah,
probably not because the AI sucks. Okay. It's
right.
because your variables aren't set up in a way that the AI can understand what the description's supposed to be.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe
go
just
back
take a
and
step
check
back.
that.
Let's go check stuff. Oh, okay. We got to change this variable. Now it makes sense.
Cool. All right, so we've got quick filters, which we're familiar with. They've been around for a little while, super handy. And you can build quick filters here. So if we were to do create date, oh, that is what is happening here. Let's try that again. That looked real buggy. Select properties below to form a group. We're going to do create date, and then it kind of freezes on me. And then I can scroll. I see. So I'm on my laptop screen. Usually I have HubSpot open in my much bigger monitor. But I'm sure there are lots of people who only use their, MacBook screen to navigate this. So this is a good test, like what happens.
Right.
So
And this is the kind of thing like people start talking about like how many clicks do I have to make and how far do I have to travel with the mouse. Like I heard some of that when properties shifted, from this
mhm.
sidebar to this separate screen where now we're building properties. This is why shifts like that make sense. Like maybe we're trying to do a little too much in this sidebar right now. Like we're
Yeah,
given all these optionalities. So I wouldn't be surprised if this eventually switches to, one of the bigger wizard like pages.
yeah,
And that's where like design starts to compete with functionality because even if we have the functionality, if there's no space to make the design work, then it doesn't matter that we can easily find the next property here if we can't scroll through them effectively.
yeah. I mean, I can only see 3 properties max, and I'm looking for one. I don't have a search bar. Well, I guess I do up here. So I'm looking for a number of conversions, which I actually don't have here. Maybe count of form submissions, which I'm not seeing. So uh, there should be like number of unique forms submitted as one of the properties. And I'm not seeing that available in here, which is odd to me. Um, but that's okay. So we'll do a contact create date as our quick filter. And really what the quick filter does is it pins this property as a filter or this combination of
Okay.
properties so that you can change it, but it's not actually saving the thing that you want it to do. So what I'm able to do with quick filters is like, okay, I know I'm going to want to filter it frequently on contact create date, but I'm not saving a weekly, a monthly, or a quarterly cadence to this. I'm saving the ability to go set that and like shortening that click path, but I can't click one button and say quarterly. So basically, I mean, it's not that much. I would not have complained enough to have this saved filters um, combo as a new feature. Like this use case would not drive my want for that. But now let's go set that up and compare the two experiences. So it's got this quick
And this is where
filter.
like I'm already feeling uh like in so many places um we are seeing this convergence of user experience, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the things like if we can do it like this on the index screen, when looking at contacts, why does it look different if we're trying to use the exact same variables, the exact same filtering structure, right, to see dashboards in a certain way? Like it should look the same over there. So kind of
Right.
there's a convergence of user experience design, but also like functionality available with all the different tool sets kind of coming together. No wonder they have so many product teams.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because in the quick filters, I went looking for a number of unique forms submitted and couldn't find it. And now in the advanced filters, I do have that option. So if I do number of form submissions is greater than or equal to 1, so I only want to see contacts who have converted on a form. And we'll do a last conversion filter.
And sometimes there's cases like in the system, I don't,
Conversion.
I won't confirm that this is one of them, but where if you're trying to do a certain thing, then almost they're building in the functionality where like, okay, if you're trying to query like this, like that kind of query won't make sense with these certain properties, so we're just not even going to give them to you, right?
Yeah.
Like dates come to mind, like um, if you're looking for like if you're trying to apply a date specific filter, it's not going to show you any of the uh, non-date formatted properties or number properties or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, what's interesting though is it's not giving me the option to save it. like we saw.
Is this one of those sneaky autosaves?
Maybe no, because in the screenshots, it might just be that I need to reload it since I enabled that because I enabled it, right?
Well, it says advanced
Yep, we're
filters
in the
too.
beta. So it looks like I should have filter presets and I should have a save as new filter preset button at the bottom, and I'm not seeing that in this experience. But I just did a hard refresh, so let's see if it catches up. Nope. So I think I'm really fascinated by the difference between quick filters and advanced filters. We've had those for a while, like none of that is new. But the properties available to us in advanced filters is way more than quick filters. And so I'm kind of struggling to understand what the best use case for quick filters would be as opposed to advanced filters and saved filtered views. I should argue I can see much more of a use case for the advanced filtered views because you can build so much nuance into it. You can sort of use the same dashboard in different ways. But I think that renders the quick filters pretty useless, to be honest.
Right. I just gave you a link for Let's Build.
All right, we'll jump in there. Are you seeing it in that one?
Yep.
Alrighty, let's try that. My Wi-Fi is pretty stable, but my laptop is deciding to slow down on us with all this video and screen sharing. Hey, everybody, go vote if you're in the US today, as Google is reminding us at the moment. We're getting real slow here. All right, so we'll give that a second to open up in the other portal. Oh, but we have to create our dashboard again. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a second and just build that quickly so we can play with it. But I think I'll share a fun little anecdote about misusing dashboards because I've seen it so many times, and I've probably already said 5 times during this recording that your dashboard should inspire your next step. It should answer a question. It should serve a purpose. And so I was working with a client where a new sales leader started, and they gave me a 2-page list of reports that they wanted. And they were pretty specific. Like, it was enough that I could actually just jump in and build all of them. But most of them were they were sort of vanity metrics. Like, they weren't really serving a purpose. And there were actually so many that I ran out of real estate. You are actually limited to how many reports can go on a dashboard. And so I went ahead and started building it. And then I was like, wait a minute, none of this makes sense. Like, why are we even doing this? And so I had another conversation with them. And I was like, I can keep going, but I don't feel like you're going to use this. So what should we do? And after some conversation and some coaching, I was able to get to the point where we realized their reports used or served 2 different purposes. One was like an internal coaching and manager dashboard, and the other was sort of the external reporting that they would, report up to the upper level management and out to the board. And so once we sort of broke that down, it was much easier for us to categorize the reports in different ways and sort of group things together, and then apply quick filters or set up the quick filters for them to filter on, the product that was sold or the, pipeline that something was in, and sort of click between those. So this is why I'm very excited about being able to apply the advanced filters in a templated way, because now you could almost have a single executive dashboard where you can have those drill downs, and especially because no one's pipelines are clean and no one's product reporting is very clean. And so when you've got that weird nuance specific to each company, you can now build those pieces in, and your executive team doesn't need to know sort of what's under the hood to make it work. And so I could have a single dashboard for that sales leader to report out. and also their marketing leader could use it, and also their CEO could jump in and click around and add or remove products as they want to look at it, because I will have pre-built those filter sets for them. It was one of my big wins as a consultant.
Yes, being able to save these presets is going to be huge.
Let's see if this actually built the dashboard. When you've got two different portals open in two different tabs, sometimes it gets a little confused where you want to be. Hopefully this will pop up a dashboard for me, and then, yeah, we'll reshare. Share my screen. Thanks for hanging in there with our technical challenges. After you vote, you should all reboot your computers. All right, now we've got one of the canned dashboards that HubSpot builds for you, which again, these are a decent starting point and can maybe start a conversation about what your dashboard should look like. But I doubt that there's anyone out there who's really going to just click, yes, I want web analytics, and have it be perfectly set up to measure all the metrics they need for their web analytics and their campaigns that they're running. So this is a good starting point for you to understand what HubSpot can do, but then you'll probably want to add your own reports to this or your own filters. So let's see if we can do our filters here. Cool. So we've got filter presets setting up here. Let's do the same kind of quarterly application here. If we've got web visitors, session totals. So if we wanted to look at a specific, oh, this doesn't include any contact data. So we're limited to the properties that we have in the existing reports. I actually really like that. You can't get ahead of yourself. I think when you're in the custom report builder, those joins can really get confusing, and you check off all the things because you want to look at them all in the same report, and then you make a mess of it because the joins end up showing like the same deal on three separate lines because they had three separate associations. And I've had so many clients get confused by that. So this is good that it's kind of like limiting your path forward here, but obviously it doesn't give us much to play with here. But let's use our quarterly, weekly, and monthly example here. So we'll do this week, save as new filter preset. And then I like the set to load as default on this. So now we've got a new filter preset. And you can click load from here. So let's see what happens if I add another one. Date range is this month. Save as new filter preset. Did it save both of those? This month and this week. Cool. Okay, so now I've got filter presets, but they're interesting. So I was kind of expecting these presets to get set up as like buttons across the top, similarly to the quick filters, and that is not the case. So you still have to go into the filter. You can clear them, but you still have to click on advanced filters to get to that, and then go to your filter presets and select from there. So it's still a few clicks, but obviously you can get really specific and drill down into all the pieces that you need for your specific dashboard. This web analytics one is a little bit limited because it only has date filters. There's only so much we can gather about anonymous visitors and report on that, especially if we're not capturing like UTMs. I would expect with this one to have some kind of filter for like landing page URL or something like that, so you could do like a campaign specific filter preset. But I'm not as familiar with the web source. I usually use Google Analytics, or I'm not using this in this way. But it's good to kind of unbox this and walk through it together, because the quick filters, when you add, I think you can add up to 5 quick filters. They show up as like little buttons across the top. But the advanced filters, you still have to click into the filter presets and get to them this way. Very grateful to have them. These are awesome, and I can't wait to use them for clients, but good to kind of know the limitations there. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, let me stop
I'm
sharing.
very
I'm very
excited
excited
to
to
start to see
start to
this
see
in
this in
action.
action. Yeah,
Um,
definitely. It's a cool one. I think it's a good way to keep your data clean under the hood without creating this tech bloat where you might have, a very specific use case dashboards, um, and just have like tons of them and lose track of them. It gives you a way to sort of streamline that, better communicate trends, compare things, um, and I think it'll make a big difference.
yeah, very exciting to see this in action. Again, more quality of life updates to kind of help with, a lot of places where people were getting tripped up, or scalability was impacted. Like in this case, you go into a client not expecting a ton of dashboards or a ton of reports, and then you just find all of them. And you're like, how could this have happened? And you start to understand what they want, right? If they don't want everybody changing filters constantly, changing views, like it just creates this need to, I want to see it a little bit differently for each person that needs to see it in each conversation. Like the need is definitely there in a lot of cases. So creating this, you know, um, greater functionality to support that is very cool to see. And so yeah, if you haven't looked in a while, which it's possible, like maybe you've lost trust in the dashboards because of things like this, because it's hard or confusing or whatever, open them back up, take a look, do a quick audit, find these opportunities, and let's grow. Have a great day, everybody. Awesome.